The Watch Dogs franchise is kinda on a hiatus now. And right now, thank God, especially with the way Ubisoft is being hated, and I really actually understand the hate. Ubisoft has been on some very questionable business practices as of recent, but I digress. Watch Dogs as a game franchise started in 2013 with Watch Dogs 1, and as of right now, I guess you can say it ended in 2020 with Watch Dogs Legion. As a franchise, I would say I'm a fan of the games. Now, money wise, the first game was a success, but the rest, not as much. The second one sold 10 million copies, but it took a long while for it to happen. In part due to the bad blood the first one got. More on that later. The third one, Watch Dogs Legion, sold 1.9 digital copies in its first 3 days, but till now hasn't hit 10 million copies. I mean, you can contrast that with Assassin's Creed Valhalla that sold over 20 million copies and is one of the highest selling Assassin's Creed games, and it came out the same year with Watch Dogs Legion.
You move with the wrath of Odin, but you do not have his wisdom.
So yeah, now that I've gotten that out of the way, I'm going to be reviewing all the Watch Dogs games and I'll be ranking them at the ending.
A name! How's your memory now?
So, Watch Dogs 1. Watch Dogs was the game that started it all. It's alright, I guess. I'm not really that big on it. It's a game about the guy who's on a revenge arc, and the hacking elements are used sometimes. It's more of a stealth game with hacking as a marketing accessory that comes up in the open world and is remembered in the story once in a while. When it comes to gameplay, it's kinda stiff, but I guess I'll cut it some slack because I played it on PS3 with 30 FPS. So maybe it was just limited to the technology of its time. Doesn't still change the fact that I don't like it though. But credit to where it's due, the hacking mechanics do work and I did find myself enjoying it. The stuff is fine, the shooting isn't bad too. That's all I really have to say about the gameplay. Lastly on this game, I want to talk about the setting and the graphics. The setting is really good. Chicago is a nice place for this grim story and I like the side activities too. The grim vibe of Chicago looked like pure depression and it actually worked for me and it kinda elevated the story. And when it comes to the graphics, it's a bit controversial, but in my opinion, for a game that came out at the end of the PS3 cycle, it works. I get the reasons for the hate because the trailers actually promised more than the PS3 could actually deliver. But let's not get it twisted. As much as it works for a game, for the game of its time, it doesn't really mean it was all that. It was passable, and now it's entering the level of, I guess you can say, abysmal. But I'm sure in 5 years' time, the graphics will be called classic, like GTA 4 or Sleeping Dogs. Yeah, I'm done rambling about this game. I think I've justified calling it alright. So to no one's surprise, I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. Now off to the second one. Watch Dogs 2. Now this is a game I love. With its beautiful graphics, improved hacking mechanics, great action and shooting, improved near futuristic devices, the beautiful open world of San Francisco, and lastly the glorious soundtrack. Honestly, Shanghai by Hudson Mohawk might actually be arguably the best video game OST of all time. Feel free to debate with me in the comments. When it comes to the story, it actually works for the premise of the game. It's basically a story of DedSec, the rebel hacking group exposing Bloom, an evil corporation, for stealing everyone's data and trying to control them over with CTOS 2, basically an advanced operating system that was created in Watch Dogs 1. Watch Dogs 1 was CTOS, Watch Dogs 2 was CTOS 2. You see how the game uses hacking at the forefront of the story. It also features Marcus Holloway, our protagonist, and he's a very cool guy. I won't act like he's the most layered character in gaming history, no. If anything, he's slightly and just a bit bland. CTOS 2 wrongfully profiles him a criminal, so naturally he decides to join DedSec to fight the dudes that harmed him. He's a charismatic dude that, for me, glues the team together, and he's a good friend, like how he avenged Horatio's death. Yeah, Marcus is a true brother. When it comes to gameplay, this game is actually near perfect. The hacking works well and it's fun to use in the open world for being chased by the cops. You can use it to cause chaos all around the city, and the remote control car just shows you how the sky is the limit in terms of what you can do in the open world. But granted, the story and the character kind of make it seem out of place to commit some heinous crimes, and it does slightly pale in comparison to GTA 5 in terms of chaos, but just slightly. The shooting is actually quite nice in this game, but most of the missions are stealth missions. So if you're using guns that much in this game, then it might actually be an indicator that you're bad at the game. You can't buy guns from an ammunition like GTA. You use a 3D printer and the guns are a bit expensive. Right, so you'd be better off buying gadgets for stealth rather than guns. And also remember the stiffness problem I mentioned from the first game? Of course you did, that was like a few minutes ago. Well, in this one it's gone. I did play it on PC, granted, but it doesn't change the fact that the game feels smooth to me. Like finally, what was wrong with the first one? Now for the open world, I have to say this is actually, and I mean it, this is actually the best open world from any Ubisoft game. You can quote me on that. It's a love letter to San Francisco, and I personally haven't gone there, but the game romanticizes it to the point where I actually want to book a flight ticket there, but I'm broke. So subscribe so I can go to San Francisco, I guess. Shameless plug aside, it is so beautiful and it just breathes this air of authenticity. Whether you're harassing students in Stanford or harassing tech bros in Silicon Valley, it just seems so right and well done. We're almost at the end of this game, I promise, but let's talk about the customization. It actually has a wide array of designs and dressing aesthetic that I would dare say is actually superior to the likes of GTA 5. And the rent-a-car feature is so efficient. It stops you from hijacking innocent people's cars. Also, quick side note, the hacking is actually quite layered in this second game. I remember having a competent skill tree that actually gives you improvements. I actually use the skills to frame someone of a heinous crime or start a gang war. Either way, it helps causing diversions, especially for the stealth missions. Okay, now to the last point before I give my verdict. The graphics, firstly, to no one's surprise, it surpasses the first one, and it leaps ahead with some of the best visuals I've seen from a PS4 era game, rivaling the likes of Ratchet and Clank and Horizon. The tone really goes well with the modern day bright San Francisco, which also reflects well on our optimistic protagonist, Marcus. Yeah, I love this game clearly. I have very little problems with these games, like how the side missions feel repetitive and the build up to the end wasn't done well. Those aren't really low lows in comparison to the astronomically high highs. So with that being said, I'm going to give Watch Dogs 2 a 9 out of 10. Now on to the last game.
The fuck are you?
Oh, you still think you're here to save London? I'm afraid that's not going to happen. You're here to help us with some important work.
Important work? Killing thousands of...
Exactly. To save the world. You do know Londoners have died before, hmm? The plague, the Great Fire, the Blitz. It's not much fun. But destruction is always the cure. And it begins today. Zero Day.
Now first, before the review, let's address the elephant in the room. The title. Yeah, it's weird. Why wasn't it just called Watch Dogs 3? Unless this was a spin-off. But the past Watch Dogs games weren't even connected to each other and it was more about the hacking. So a spin-off would probably be something else that isn't hacking but still takes place in this world. So I guess the spin-off is Assassin's Creed. I'll explain that later. I think I've made peace with the fact that Ubisoft is just used to unconventional game titles. Okay, enough rambling, to the review now. So Watch Dogs Legion released in 2020 with the genius idea of their recruit system and a very early take on ray tracing. The game released with mostly positive reviews, although now everyone's acting like they don't like it or they forgot it exists. It's not perfect, but with my love for the second one, I actually like the change of setting and premise for this one. It's refreshing to say the least. Now let me talk about what I don't like about this game first. There's no main character. There's no character work at all. In the first mission, a character named Dalton is killed off with no mercy. So now DeadSec is open to anyone who is willing to join. More or less, unlike the second one, they only accept Marcus and another dude whose name I can't remember. So you go about recruiting the people in the streets of London. At first I found it intriguing, but at a point I just didn't bother again. The characters are bland, but I guess you can say they have very slight differences. By the end of the day, they're still bland. The voice acting also gets repeated after a while, and I promise you'll notice it.
Wait, what?
Look, I'll explain. I used to do research for this pharmaceutical lab. That is until my boss stole my work and sold it to the Albion.
So to recruit them, you have to do a mission for them, and all of a sudden they'll be so loyal to you. The missions aren't really anything too serious, just feels like a way the game gets you to play the side missions. Some parts of the story also falls behind due to the lack of a compelling main character, and I promise you it's actually quite present when you're playing the game. Now another thing I don't like is the stiff feeling with the gameplay. It's actually similar to Watch Dogs 1, and this isn't even because I played it on the PS3. I played this game on PS5 with 60 FPS, so I really don't get the stiffness. Okay, now I think I'm not talking about what I don't like about this game. On to the good stuff. So back to the story. While it drags sometimes, I actually like the villains like Zero Day, Nigel Cass, and Mary Kelly. Zero Day and Nigel Cass basically take over and privatize London with their technology after blowing up London years before. Now it's a slightly futuristic dystopia. Mary Kelly though, who I remember spending more video game hours trying to take down. Yeah, she was a quite menacing villain, especially with her whole plot line of organized crime and human trafficking. However, she just seemed like a very badass villain. And since we're talking about the story, let me also point out the Assassin's Creed part that I mentioned earlier and I'm going to use as a segue to the next point. So there was a free Assassin's Creed DLC mission that basically makes the Assassin's Creed world canon to the Watch Dogs world, and I guess in turn also making the Far Cry world canon too. This mission, although not part of the main story, was actually compelling and the mission structure was so well done. Now, onto the mission design. For the most part, it works well, but it does enter the repetitive category quite a bit. For most missions, you can choose between stealth or just the overt approach, which is guns a-blazing. It's actually refreshing to have the multiple options, unlike the first and second one that actually trapped you inside this type of box and this linear approach to the mission. And the stealth gadget are actually improved in this one. Like there's a gadget where you can just use to go invisible temporarily for anyone to sneak, and remote control spiders that you can enter tight spaces with. Okay, now let's get into the overall gameplay. Remember how I said the gadgets were done well in this game, right? Yeah, the guns though. Yeah, the gadgets were good, but the shooting mechanics and the guns overall, they were very terrible. Maybe it's because it was in England and not in America. Okay, bad joke aside. Shooting in this game feels like I'm attacking damaged sponges, especially those goddamn robots. Boy, do they piss me off. And it's really challenging to get an automatic weapon that makes those robots easier to kill because they are very, very expensive. The combat overall works well, I guess. The takedowns work even though they aren't as cinematic as the likes of the takedowns in Watch Dogs 1 or Watch Dogs 2. And the fighting is actually decent. I really have no complaints about the hand-to-hand combat. Lastly, I love the premise of the game. A near-future dystopian London is actually pretty good and it's pretty well done. A weird gripe I have is that none of the cars actually have people driving them when you hijack them. The world building is off and on. Sometimes the place feels empty and sometimes I turn on the music and I hear KSI. I'm done yapping about this game. So my rating for this game is a simple 7 out of 10. For the most part, it works well, but its flaws drag it back. Now here's my final ranking. So in last place, it's going to be Watch Dogs 1, to no one's surprise. The second place is going to be Watch Dogs Legion. And easily, my number 1 is going to be Watch Dogs 2. One of my favorite games of all time. So overall, I like the franchise, but right now, with the way Ubisoft is, I'm honestly happy that the game franchise is on hiatus, and maybe when Ubisoft fix their stuff, they can actually get this game, get us a fourth one or a proper third one or whatever they want to do. So yeah, this was fun. Subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and maybe next time I'll make a review on the Batman Arkham game trilogy. Till then, watch the video on screen, and bye bye.